And we continue at 1:06 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. Mr. Randy Wangs at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, this morning, President Joe Biden went to FEMA headquarters to deliver this very important message to the emergency responders covering yet another hurricane.
So, thank you. It's important the American people understand it because we're in a situation where, how can I say it?
You want to phone a friend? Every time I see that guy on TV, I think he's going to die before they hit the commercial break.
And then we went to sleep.
He's not well. And he probably has COVID, too.
Well, Jill has it. Excuse me.
Doctor.
Jill has it.
Okay, so she tested pause. And then he was meeting with all these 80-something-year-old war heroes, and he took the mask off and got right in their face. Did you see that?
He forgot.
And then he was coughing up a lung when he was giving a speech somewhere and spitting all over the first three rows. It looked like a Gallagher concert of body fluids.
Quite frankly.
Yet he was the one that supported the mask mandates for all the rest of us. Good to know, Joe. 800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It's our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is a professor of political science emeritus at California State University at Fullerton, Professor Barbara Stone. Welcome.
Hi, John. Happy to be here as long as you don't bring up Julio Urias. Okay.
Hey, I'm an Angel fan. I'll tell you. All we're thinking about is what time the bar opens.
I understand that. Oh, well, so let's do something cheerier like Joe Biden.
Well, let's talk about this UC Berkeley poll that dropped in this morning's Los Angeles Times, because the Times, I thought, blew the headline. The headline was that Donald Trump has a commanding lead in the Republican primary in California. And that is in line with what we've seen in previous polls. To my eye, what was interesting about this poll is not that Trump is leading the Republican primary or Biden is leading the Democratic primary. We already knew that. And we knew that they were leading by wide margins. There are some details in this poll, however, that are news to me. First and foremost, the Times said that Biden has a, quote, commanding 20-point lead over Trump. But they failed to note that it was 30 points back in February. So a 6-point drop for Biden, a 4-point gain for Trump among registered voters. It should be noted that Trump lost California in 2016 by 30 points, and in 2020 he lost it by 29 points. So that's a 10-point drop for Biden between 2016 and today. That, to me, is significant. 23% of voters are somewhat open to vote for a third-party candidate if it's Biden versus Trump. And 24% are very open to the idea. So that means that 47%, almost half of the electorate in the state of California, are open to voting for a third-party candidate. When you're talking about 47% of voters in California, you're talking about a lot of Democrats and a lot of independents who usually vote for Democrats. These are red flags for Joe Biden, to my eye. Your thoughts?
I think you nailed it in terms of Biden and his problems. Joe's biggest problem, everything else aside, is Joe is old. Now, many people are old and they don't function the way he does. So he's old, if you want to call it that. And you can't miss it. Now, if you happen to watch Fox News, then, of course, they're wonderful that way. That they show him as he completes all these things where maybe you can get a tiny clip of him looking decent, and then he wanders off the stage and God knows where he goes. But the mainstream press doesn't touch that because they don't want to hurt him. Having said that, you do realize that the mainstream press, Biden aside, is obsessing over old politicians. On and on and on about Dianne Feinstein, on and on and on about Mitch McConnell. And guess who else is old? And for those of us in California, now, Democrats are not watching Fox, all right, unless your name's Gavin Newsom. But they have to see stuff like that performance on Maui. Most of us have been to Lahaina, or many of us have. And so you're paying attention. And what he did there, besides not really appearing to know where he was and telling that stupid story about he empathizes because his Corvette almost burned up, you watch that and you get the idea this guy is too old to be president. And then you get into policies and whatever. Well, it's just true. I honestly have believed for a while that the Dems are going to dump him. They're going to let it go along, then they're going to dump him. The problem they have is what's in the way is Kamala. And they don't particularly want her either. But we'll have to see. But it's fascinating. And, of course, the numbers you were citing leads you then to talk about no labels, doesn't it?
Well, it's not just no labels. You could have, realistically, 3 third-party candidates who have some degree of notoriety. No labels could nominate Joe Manchin. That's the rumor that's swirling around Washington, D.C. He would have juice with moderates who don't like Biden or Trump. But then you go and put Cornel West on the ballot, and that gives black male voters in particular who really don't like Joe Biden. And you look at the black press right now, where Charlemagne the God, who is a very popular morning show host, says all the time that Joe Biden is too old to be president and shouldn't be president. Certainly, Dave Chappelle is no fan. Kanye West is no fan. And so you say to yourself, black voters are not going to vote for Trump. I don't believe that's going to happen. He did everything he could to reach out to black voters last time. It didn't happen. I don't think that's going to change this time around. However, if you put Cornel West on the ballot, you give them some place to go where they don't have to vote for Joe Biden or Donald Trump. And then if you put Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the ballot, and he believes he's being mistreated by the Democratic Party, that gives people who are obsessed with the Kennedy name a place to go, or people who are just contrarian or anti-establishment. Probably a lot of the Ron Paul people would end up over there for a variety of reasons. But you have now given a number of elements of the electorate who don't like both candidates safe places to go where they can go ahead and register their disappointment in the 2 major parties. That, to me, benefits Trump.
Yes and no, okay? By the way, I think the Kennedy thing, I don't mean to be insulting here, but I think that's a pipe dream of Republicans who have been smoking something they shouldn't have. The Cornel West thing is real. As far as I know, the guy's planning on running on the Green Party label, and that's on the ballot in all the states, so he's real, and he's a threat. The no labels, everybody is focusing on Joe Manchin, and if that's all you have to offer, well, I don't know how far you get. But I believe people like Larry Hogan are involved with no labels. Larry Hogan was the Republican governor of Maryland. To the extent a Republican is governor of a place like that, he was actually quite a successful governor of Maryland. Chris Sununu of New Hampshire keeps making noises like maybe he'd be friendly here, though I've seen nothing he was there. If you actually put out a ticket of in whichever order, of a Democrat who's a sitting senator and a Republican who has been a governor, believe it or not, there are going to be people on both sides of the aisle who are going to go, okay, I can vote for that. Cornel West, whatever goes on there. Might as well have a ticket of Cornel West and Marianne Williamson and let it go. But notice the numbers you were quoting were all 47% willing to consider a second party if it's Trump versus Biden. And people who go, well, that's all helping Biden, forget how many anti-Trump Republicans there are. So but it has to be Trump versus Biden for those numbers to matter, I think. Don't know that.
Here's another aspect of the poll. You mentioned age being a problem. Among the state's likely voters, 42% said they believe Biden's age, he turns 82 shortly after Election Day, will hurt him a lot in his reelection, compared to 32% who think Trump's legal woes will hurt him a lot in his effort to win back the White House.
Yeah. Now, did they ask them, what about Trump's age?
But Trump doesn't play old. It's going back to what you said before.
Now, wait. Let me try. We're playing here, right?
Yes.
The odds of this happening are fairly remote. But I mentioned the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about Biden's age because they don't want to hurt the Democrat. Okay, let's assume the Democrats can find a way to get rid of Joe. They will if they can. I truly believe that. Gavin truly believes that. So we've gotten rid of Joe. Suddenly, I predict, and I will bet you, and I bet only on horses and sure things. Although I think the last bet I made with you, John, I lost, but that's neither here nor there. That at that point, the press will suddenly be talking about how old Donald Trump is, and they will prove he's lost it by reprinting some of the stuff he puts out on Truth Social.
Okay, here's the difference, though. Trump has energy for days. You see this guy on TV. He's not sleepy. He's engaged. He's traveling around the country. The guy is an animal. He only sleeps like 4 hours a day. This guy is up morning, noon, and night. You don't look at him, and I've seen him in person, and I've covered him on television and radio for a very long time. This guy is a blur. He is everywhere. He is frenetic. With Joe Biden, we all know. We all see the videos of him falling down the stairs. We see the videos of him shaking hands when no one is there, of saying things that make absolutely no sense, of falling asleep at official functions when he should be wide awake. There are plenty of people out there who are old, but people who
be careful.
There are people who are old who don't play old, though. That was Regis Philbin's whole appeal. Regis Philbin was old as dirt for decades while he was on television. But when you watched Regis on television, you didn't look at him and say an old man. You looked at him and said, oh, my God, there's a guy who has too much caffeine, because he was just bouncing all over your screen. But then you had other people who were younger than Regis Philbin who would lose their jobs on television because they were deemed to be too old for TV. So both things can be true. You can be old but play young, and you can be young and play old, and you can be punished for being old when you're not old, and you can not have it not even be a relevant factor, and you're actually old.
Speaking as a person who is taking this conversation very personally now, Mr. Phillips. Okay? Actually, if let's go back to if it's Biden versus Trump, you are 100% right. And the topic will never come up because the mainstream media absolutely can't ride that horse, because Biden loses big time. I'm just suggesting if Biden leaves the scene, willingly or unwillingly, and, I don't wish on anybody a stroke or dropping dead or whatever, but you did catch where he empathized with Mitch McConnell and basically said, I had something like that. That was how I took it. That if you remove him, then suddenly it's not going to be a big deal, but it will be a deal that the press will go hopping after Trump on that. But it doesn't really matter at this moment, I don't think.
Couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was this weekend, I don't remember, vacation, Donna Brazile was on one of the Sunday shows, and she warned Democrats that it was very possible that Joe Biden would lose and Donald Trump would win. And what she said concerned her most was young Latino and Asian voters who really don't like Joe Biden. And inflation is absolutely killing them. And if Democrats don't recognize that, they're fools. You look at the results of this poll, and what she said on television a couple of days ago was reflected in the results of this poll. Young Latinos who are starting families and starting their careers and are aspiring homeowners, and young Asians who fit all of those categories really blame the government for the problems that they're dealing with. And Joe Biden right now is the face of government. What do you make of that?
There are two levels to respond to that. One of which is, of course, Donna Brazile is correct, isn't she? And what gets funny on the Democrat side is there are a significant group of fairly intelligent Democrat operative types who appear to think that they really want Trump because Trump's the only one Joe can beat. Put sort of people like Donna Brazile, and it clearly is occurring to them that no, Joe's so bad because it's more than just he's old and doddering, as you just pointed out. If you're out there trying to make your way in the world, it's tough, and the president gets the credit or blame. That it's occurring to them that no, maybe Biden's the one Trump can beat. And if you're Democratic operatives, that has to be keeping you up at night. I still think they're going to get rid of him, John. I really do. They just have to figure out what to do with the lovely Kamala.
How do you get rid of him and not have Kamala as your nominee?
Gavin Newsom has to have the nerve to run against her.
Which he won't do.
You don't know that. I think come on, this is one I'm not betting on. You're probably right. And so from their point of view, they're hoping Joe somehow takes it. Well, no, then you still get Kamala, don't you? Oh, my, they have a problem. Yes.
Well, here's their issue. They've ridden this horse to electoral success. They've managed to racialize every subject under the sun. We can't stop people from robbing Walgreens because that's racist. If you don't support universal health care, that's racist too. If you want to do sweeps of the homeless encampments, that's racist. Anytime you do something they don't like, it's deemed to be racist. If you then step in and say, because of electability, because we do not believe she would win the election, we are going to remove and eliminate the sitting vice president from being the Democratic nominee because it just doesn't work out for us. How does that not look as a completely racist move after you've already socialized and held the hands of your voters along with racializing every subject on the planet? I don't know how you get around that.
By the way, not all Democrats are that way, but you're correct on the general narrative. Well, let me see. Because they're going to be desperate to get rid of her, I think. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they have more faith in her than I think. But I would start with you have to understand that Kamala, we have to do this sort of voce. Kamala is not African American. In fact, half of her is upper caste Indian. People who were some southern state, they were upper caste, they got in a minority, they had to come here. And where that might matter is in a nutty place like California, where they're considering legislation to make it illegal to discriminate on the basis of caste. Oh, God, help us. And her father's Jamaican. And when asked about reparations, he said, well, then half of me would have to pay reparations to the other half, so part of his family owns slaves. You almost have to go after her that way and hope that will satisfy enough because they don't want to lose the election. They just can't lose the election. And actually, John, where this is just going to get crazy on both sides, I think we're a long, long way from knowing where we're going to be. If you're a Democrat, do you understand what's just right there beyond your reach? A Democrat president with a comfortably controlled Senate with a House of Representatives. We've seen lots of progressive advances under Joe. You ain't seen nothing yet. From a Republican point of view, you look at that and you go, oh, my God. And it's far less that I think the Republicans are going to think of the great things we could do, but that we just literally can't have that. We, one way or the other, have to stop them. And I think the thoughts and discussions are going to get wild, but I don't know that.
Professor Barbara Stone, Professor of Political Science Emeritus at California State University at Fullerton. Thanks so much for stopping by. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure, John. Bye-bye.
If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you were driving around tonight after dinner and you say to yourself, boy, I wish I was listening to John and Randy, you can make that happen.
That's right. Go to KABC.com, click on podcast, go to the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can search for The John Phillips Show on YouTube, subscribe to the playlist. There are so many different ways to listen. And in fact, you can listen with the windows down. And that way, when someone cuts you off, just have it on cue and you can have Cecily saying,
Hell no!
It's Woo Wednesday.
It's Woo Wednesday! Yeah, baby! Woo, 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 woo.
But Randy, tomorrow is not Throwback Thursday.
No, because we are paying tribute to Jimmy Buffett all week long. I'm kind of going chronologically through some of his albums, although if you have a specific request at any point this week, you can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. It's all Jimmy Buffett all the time as we honor the chief parrot head himself.
And next week, we're going on the road.
That's right. A week from Friday, September 15th, we're going to be live. Broadcasting from noon to 3 at the Gelson's in Century City. The Gelson's Food Market in Century City has a wine bar. So come down there with us from noon to 3. Maybe get a tasting, get a flight, try some wines you never had before. They got a great selection. They've got a fantastic menu for lunch. I hear the burger is incredible. Someone already went down and asked about the burger. So we're all going to have lunch together. We're going to do the show together. It's going to be a great time. The Gelson's in Century City, which is in the Westfield Century City Shopping Center. In fact, you can get 3 free hours of parking if you go to Gelson's. But come on down, spend the afternoon with us. That is Friday, September 15th from noon to 3 at the Century City Gelson's Wine Bar.
All right, it's time to open up the KABC Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
By the way, Johnny, I've decided if anybody wants to play a drop from this show to the LA City Council while calling in on their public comment line, the drop absolutely should be,
If the cashier is dummy.
because none of them will get it.
No, they won't.
It'll be fantastic. And in fact, if any of them do get it, that would be even more interesting.
Although I do have it on good authority, at least, well, actually 2 of them listen on a regular basis.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And one of them might be the councilman that presides.
Oh.
Yeah, word got back to me about that.
Well, he does get featured pretty regularly when he starts yelling at people.
That is very true. All right, we're in for a treat today because today's edition of the Crime Blotter involves not only Fox 11's Ed Laskos, a national treasure, it also involves a firebug.
That's right. There is an arsonist on the loose in downtown Long Beach that keeps torching cars in parking lots of an apartment building. And they haven't caught him yet. It keeps going on, and people are pretty sure the next one's going to burn down the entire building. So for a story with that much drama, of course you need the big guns. Mr. Ed Laskos, take us away.
And, Christine, there is concern and urgency here this late hour, concerned by many of the tenants in one of the apartment buildings that one of these intentionally set fires could quickly spread and take down the entire building. And then you have the urgency to find this firebug to get the...
I love that he calls him a firebug.
Well, that's what they are.
And then you have the urgency to find this firebug, to get the firebug off the streets ASAP, as investigators say it is definitely a public safety threat. Here's why. The suspected Long Beach firebug strikes again this white pickup truck, or what's left of it now.
You know, I believe that's the same way he described the mauling of Roy Horn.
The suspected Long Beach firebug strikes again. This white pickup truck, or what's left of it now, the latest target of somebody who is setting fires, setting them on purpose.
The peace of mind part, you know? I mean, because now you don't really know when the next thing's going to happen. The guy's still running around.
His pickup, one of the first to be torched by the suspected arsonist, a neighbor quickly putting the fire out. As Long Beach fire investigators now say, in just the past 2 weeks alone, up to 5 fires, all intentionally set, all of them burning the same target.
You know, with that many fires, with that many cars getting destroyed, the insurance company's going to pull out of Long Beach.
Do you remember, I forget which year it was, but it was around New Year's Eve. There was a firebug in the West Hollywood area that was starting fires in carports in buildings that had the parking areas underneath the actual building. And it was one after another after another. And there was no rhyme or reason as to where the fires would be started. And he was always one step ahead of the cops. And the local news described him as some kind of evil genius. Some arsonist that had been studying the art of arson for years and years and years and knew how the cops responded and knew what the cops were doing before the cops were doing it. And they couldn't figure it out if it was this Ted Kaczynski 2.0. And then they finally found the guy, and I believe he was a mentally retarded illegal alien Russian.
So not criminal mastermind.
No.
Enough already.
Some of the consistencies here is that they're all vehicles, inside parking structures, in close proximity, and that's what lends us to believe that they're all very much connected.
Connected to possibly the same person, now turned firebug. 3 of these fire...
He was a person, but then he started getting excited by a match, and now he's a firebug.
Connected to possibly the same person, now turned firebug. 3 of these fires happening right here at the Camden Harborview Apartments. Another fire hitting the parking structure at the convention center. And there is more to the MO of this firebug.
They appear to be in an area or in close proximity to an entrance and an exit, meaning that...
You mean they were able to get into the structure and out? That is some crack investigating. You're saying the person who set a car on fire in a parking garage got into the parking garage?
Boy, this is Matlock level investigation.
There would be less likelihood of this individual being found or seen as they're attempting to conduct this.
The fires have left some who live and park here at Camden Apartments worried about their own safety, especially, they say, with the rise of homeless wandering through the area.
At nighttime, you know, they're all around here, so the safety. And then 3, it's like, am I even comfortable enough to, keep living around here without, looking over my shoulder or wondering what's going to happen next?
I thought they revitalized downtown Long Beach, no?
Downtown Long Beach was looking pretty good the last time I was there.
One of the tenants out with this picture of a man seen near the parking garage at the time of one of the fires. Investigators say he is not a suspect, instead calling him a person of interest.
It's probably that guy.
Are you making an assumption here, Randy?
Well, yes, I am.
One of the victims calls him something else.
We all know who he is, and I've seen him a bunch. I would bet that he's homeless. He definitely has some kind of mental instability. You know what I mean?
He's so unstable, he's unstable.
Well, if that's the case, then it could be another version of what happened in West Hollywood.
Now live, a lot of the tenants here know what he means. They describe this fellow as somebody who wanders around aimlessly, grinding his teeth, they say, growling at everybody. So they would like investigators to find him. For their part...
Wait, what was this description again?
Yeah, not exactly a criminal mastermind either.
This fellow is somebody who wanders around aimlessly, grinding his teeth, they say, growling at everybody. So they would like investigators to find him.
How much meth do you have to do before you believe you're a werewolf?
How hard could it be to find this guy?
To find him. For their part, fire investigators say that man in the picture, not a suspect, a person of interest. As they put it, they'd like to find him. They'd like to talk to him to see if he has anything to do with all of this, if he has anything to do with this rising concern of these fires hitting this neighborhood.
There you have it. A firebug on the loose in Long Beach.
Hopefully, as we continue to get updates on this story, Fox 11 will be sending Ed Laskos down the 710 every single night.
Enough already.
If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Mario from the OC writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and wants to know if Karen Bass ever performed with the band Kiss. Well, I did some research during the break, Mario, and it turns out that in 1976, the first time that Gene and Paul were thinking of firing Peter Criss, they actually tried out a replacement, and that's Karen Bass.
They call me Doctor. They call me Doctor. Doctor. I've got the cure you're thinking of. Doctor.
Did she paint her face and do the thing with her tongue, too?
Why, yes, she did.
It's not a namsy-pamsy thing.
But it's been a very busy day for the mailbag. And, Randy, be careful with that bag. I don't want you to have a hernia.
Let's get one from Jay, who writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com in response to the Long Beach firebug.
Enough already.
Jay writes in and says, you guys got to check this out. Long Beach Fire's arson department is currently understaffed by 25%. Maybe the new mayor could explain why, as the cars burn and some wacko is running loose.
You know, Long Beach is a city that had pretty good city government up until very recently. We have that obnoxious congressman, Garcia, who used to be the mayor of Long Beach. And now they've got some new guy, Rex Richardson, who's just as bad. And I'll tell you, the minute you take people who understand local government out of the equation and you replace them with buffoons, your city goes down the tubes pretty fast. So be careful with your new mayor, Long Beach. Good luck.
Enough already.